everyone. This is Chris. I'm here with Julie. We are coming back to this podcast. It's been a busy time, and we're excited to share about joy and hope today. These are the topics we've been exploring a bit. And welcome back to Awakening into Freedom. And I'm excited, looking forward to seeing where we go with this. As I said, it's been a while, so we'll see where we go. And I'm going to pass it over to Julie. She's going to kick us off with the topic, and we're going to see what we can share with you today.
Well, hello everyone. So we've been having a chat about joy and hope, and not really necessarily going into anything too deep and heavy, but very aware about how do we learn to harmonise ourselves in the world we live in today. And the word that's been coming is how do we then radiate that out in our lives. So I think Chris has got some really good ideas around lots that you have to say on this, so I'm going to hand it back to you.
Yeah, well, I like the word radiate too, and I think for me it's about being true to self. It's about being in alignment with self, because if we're not in those things, then we're going to be meeting stress on some level, because often stress is just trying to get us back on track, and if we're stressed, it's like a tension, really, by definition. So with that tension, it's difficult to be shining and radiating. And at the same time, we don't want to expect something from ourselves all the time. We don't want to put undue pressure on being radiant all the time, because we are going to have expansions and contractions, like physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And that's very similar to nature. That is nature. Nature doesn't stay in one place all the time. It doesn't just become the same all the time. It's constantly oscillating or changing, or it's in its own rhythm, like the sea, the ocean, the waves, the trees in the breeze. Sometimes they're blowing around, sometimes they're quite still, sometimes the sun's out, sometimes it's raining. So it's okay to not feel radiant all the time. Having said that, it's also a good idea to know what has worked in order to bring some of that radiance out. And it could be things that have already been discovered and need to be revisited, or it could be things that haven't been opened up or experienced enough, and it's a good time to let them come through.
The big thing, as I listen to you, comes out for me is we really can't do it in isolation. That's the big thing, isn't it? It's when you're in accord with another person that a lot of this will then manifest and come to light. So having people that are on the like-minded journey, I think for me, is really, really important. We've spoken in the other podcast about Jung. I'm a big fan of Jung because he's the one that talks about doing the descent, going down. So it's one thing to go to spirit, but I think ultimately what we've talked about here is this joy and hope is there is a certain degree of understanding your deeper soul self, because then the radiation, or what to radiate out, then takes you up to this other place of really deeply knowing yourself. And I know there's a lot that you want to talk about too, about giving back to other people and to the world around you. And that's really important too. But if I don't know myself, then I think, and you used these words before, I'm all at sea. You know, I really don't have an anchor, and I really don't know my true essence, I think is the word I would use. So, yeah, so we talked a little off air before we started, we talked a little bit about this word called the mysteries. And you came up with, when we said, well, what are the mysteries? And you came up with, really, it's the unknown. So I guess this is, awakening to freedom. The whole podcast for you is really about, what I understand it to be, is about starting to understand, if we use the word the mysteries, it might sound a little bit woo-woo, but it really is starting to look deeper in yourself and go, I think the big thing I found was, what do I need and what do I want? If I don't know that, I'm going to be voracious in the world out there and searching and looking for all these things and have no real clue what my deeper essence is.
Mm. Yeah, it's there's a lot there that you've covered. I think there was a moment something came to me about the spirit and the soul, and the ascent to spirit or descent to soul. I think it's good to be in touch with both, and it's also good to realize that we don't want to get too carried away with what's out there. We do want to realize that I think for the soul it's about, we do matter as individuals. We do matter because all of our souls are like unique fingerprints, and
I agree, yeah.
and they do have unique needs and wants, or they show up in unique ways anyway. And I guess the other thing with I do matter means I'm going to feel my matter. I'm made up of matter, and not be too caught up in the ethereal outside of me. So it is about, again, being in touch with both and not abandoning either or disregarding either. Yeah, so that's something that emerged for me as I was listening to you.
But we talked about like radiating out, but we also, the other word that we were discussing earlier was resonance. And you being a musician as well, and I find it fascinating because the resonance of my deepest soul self is that vibration that's coming out, isn't it? It's that thing that radiates from there. So if I don't tune in, I have to tune into what that really is. And I suppose that takes a bit of quiet time as well. And because we live in a world where we're so busy, rushing, aren't we? And on the run, basically. So to become aware is really, really important.
Yeah, I think it's about knowing our capacity to honour ourselves and honour our calling and in each moment, and that can help us create this pathway or drop in to where we really want to be or where we need to be, or both, and we can resonate from that place of honouring. And as you said, it's good to have the capacity and to build the capacity to do that with other people, as well as at times we need to take care of ourselves too. But it's good to know how to do both, and there might be different seasons of life where we need to lean into more of one, build our capacity in one or the other. I would say, having said that, ultimately we are meant to coexist and share fundamentally. So
Yeah.
we don't want to fall into the trap of thinking we need to do too much by ourselves.
Yeah. I think that's what you're saying there is so important. I think even in the work I do, they're realising more and more many people are just isolated, trying to work it all out themselves. And the word neurosis was coming up in one of the people that I listen to, and it's just that inability then that's constantly trying to work something out inside yourself and never know how to join in or find the right people to be able to talk things through with. Group work is fascinating. It can be scary at first, really scary to step in. But once you do, I think the work I do with families, a lot of work I do, people will come and they'll say, often when we do group work, they go, I didn't realise I was struggling with this on my own. And what a relief it is just to hear other people going, we're not the only ones in the struggle.
It can take a lot of energy to be vulnerable, and it can take a lot of trust. And ironically, the way to build trust is to be vulnerable. So it can feel confusing at times, or there might be an inner conflict. And for example, I'm thinking of doing this thing, this workshop or this group therapy, but I'm not sure about it. It's like, fair enough. Because it might be calling you into releasing something, and that isn't always a walk in the park. But
it's scary.
But there will be some part of you that is energized by moving towards that. So that gives you a bit of a clue or a bit of a backing to trust yourself in that direction.
Yeah. I think isolation is a big thing for people today, even though there's a lot of connection on different media platforms and all of these things that keep people busy. But I guess what we're talking about is tuning into something a little bit deeper within you. And you said it before beautifully, like your own individual blueprint. Well, what's my real purpose here?
Yeah, I like what you're saying about isolation. It's kind of like the world is set up at the moment to distract us a lot and create a lot of avoidance, and it's almost just trying to sell us things all the time. Whether it's media selling us stories or information is coming at us from a million angles, a million miles an hour. So we're overstimulated, basically.
Absolutely.
And I think just on the overstimulation, that creates confusion, and that creates this inertia.
Yeah.
And it's like we have to kickstart ourselves in a better way or a better direction, and the remedy with that is often, the old-fashioned face-to-face connection, because there's something natural about looking into someone's eyes or facing them and feeling their energy and feeling your energy, and realizing that this is far more useful information than scrolling through Facebook or...
You make such a good point. This is an absolute epidemic at the moment, even with children. And the other thing that is epidemic too is, and I love this saying that I've heard, is we judge our insides by other people's outsides. And I think when people are trapped in that medium of looking, for example, Facebook or whatever it is, there's this constant judging and thinking more than, less than. And it's very disconcerting for people. it tunes you out, really, away from what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're just exposed to everything, which is good in some ways because everything's reachable quickly. Information, for example, but I think we're realizing that information isn't the highest commodity or intelligence or resource. It's a lot of it is wisdom that we're looking for. It's our own inner wisdom, which is coming back to knowing thyself.
Yeah. And like some of what you've noted here, like intentions over expectations. And you've got their kindness as well.
Yeah,
over perfectionism. That kind of statement there is really these people that are looking at other people, people getting facelifts or whatever, I don't know, body image, all that stuff. Well, there's your perfectionism there. As opposed to what you're saying, the act of kindness, just looking into another person's face and simply smiling, really.
Yeah, I think it humanises our experience to be around people in the flesh. And when we're on screens these days, now we've got AI, so we don't know what's real anymore.
Yeah.
We're getting an image of what others want us to see. They're not necessarily showing up in person. Yeah. So it's like, how many takes did they have when they took that selfie? How many takes until they got one that was good enough? And then they're showing you that one, but they didn't show you the other 87. That was, that one was a bit off.
And this is a world epidemic. I remember I was lucky enough to travel to India on the Ganges, and there's a young Indian girl sitting on the side of the bank where this beautiful ancient fire is at Varanasi, and she's got the extended phone poked out from her, and she's sitting there posing on the bank just doing selfies, and I thought, this is really ironic. It just it's the worldwide, this problem. It's everywhere. Everyone's got a mobile phone, right?
Yeah, it's like a change of epic proportions, and I guess we all know that at this point. But we're kind of couldn't be more attached to our mobile phones.
Well, we do need them, right? And God, we do need them now. It's just an imperative because you do so much work through them. But you've got another word here that's coming up, and I love it. The word, the courage. Courage, to think even that there's another way of doing things,
Yeah, and that's sort of what I was saying before about, hey, I want to go to this group therapy, but I'm not sure about it. It's like, fair enough. Well, it's the courage that gets you there.
Yeah.
It's the courage that's listening to that stronger current, even though it may not be strong yet. It's wanting to be strong. And that's why it's kind of nudging you in a certain direction.
Yeah. Because with the topic joy and hope, I guess hope, I was going to ask you, for you to pick this as a topic, what were you hoping for? I
think hope is about having a positive outlook on the future. And I think a lot of our outlooks get hijacked because we are exposed to this lopsided image of the world. And part of that is the media, social media. It's the opinions of others. It's listening to others too much and not listening to ourselves enough. It's also conditioning, it's trauma. So all these things where we suddenly aren't trusting the world so much. So therefore, if we can't trust the world, how can we count on the world? Therefore, what can we look forward to? How can we be hopeful?
Yeah.
So by, let's say, reconciling with a lot of those things, it's easier to be hopeful, to have a positive outlook on the future.
We live in a very materialistic world, don't we? We agree that that's, Amazon, whatever it is we're buying, buy. But I think the word buy is in material things, but we also buy in, and we're talking a lot about the media. we buy into what's being the feed that's coming to us, as if we're just accepting that there's no other way. But when you use the word courage, it's like courage to change. We've heard this before. Courage to change the things you can. Starting to become aware of what you can put down.
Yeah.
Still time.
The buying in comes from, I think, or one feature of it is, yeah, as we said, all this technology that we're surrounded by. It's very convenient. It's very alluring. It's very tempting. It's easy. It's easy in the short term, but not great for us in the long term, which kind of puts it into the addictive category because it's something that we may foresee as having short-term benefits, but it doesn't really have very good long-term benefits because in many cases where our posture's not loving it, our body's we're not getting outside in the sun enough, we're not exercising enough, we're not moving enough. We're sort of replacing the movement of our body with the movement of all this information that's always moving.
Yeah.
So we're trading one for another, and it's not a very good trade.
And I love it because you've got their intentions over expectations, because we can get set up thinking I now and get very dissatisfied because but you've got to bring it back to what is it I'm really doing here? Like, what are my true intentions, and what do I think I'm going to get back? What am I buying in? I think that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, intentions is sort of getting clearer on what I want, but without setting the wrong parameters there, like in terms of expectations I would say it's dangerous, I suppose, that word expectations, because it comes back to what you said about mystery. We don't really know. We don't know exactly how things will pan out. If we set intentions, we can let go. If we set expectations, it's hard to let go. So we're in this place of holding on all the time, and that's a tense place to be.
And I suppose it needs to be said, like, there's a lovely saying, like, I've got a plan for the future, but I can live in today. So people have got mortgages, and there's talk about expectations. So there's certain things you have to meet for family and whatnot. But that, again, coming back to that harmonising factor, and the word too is discernment, like, at what point are we tipping over that it's out of balance?
Yeah, and I think also commitment, like being aware of where we're placing our commitment. Because, as you said, it's kind of practical and important to have certain commitments to meet. Like, some people need to pick up their kids from school at a certain time. I mean, it's pretty important. Like, it may not happen perfectly every time, but it's important enough to make a commitment for it. And I guess there are also other, maybe less than obvious commitments that perhaps people overlook, like a lot of the commitments we can make to ourselves. And I think it's interesting, the word commitment, because I think traditionally what comes up for me is sort of the traditional things that we should commit to, and as soon as we're thinking in that word should, maybe they're not our commitments, they're commitments we are adopting. So it's sort of, again, being aware of, like, what am I adopting with that word commitment? Because it's good to have commitment, it's good to have follow through, it's good to have value something enough that like I'm going to find a way into this or to meet this. But just checking in and saying, is this a commitment that I'm choosing? And that's really important.
Yeah. I have friends that talk about they say I've should on myself all the times. I must, I should, I have to. And they've got to go, you know. That's that expectation, isn't it? It drives us. So I guess we're talking about, you know, like awakening to freedom. For me, this is your whole podcast, right? Your whole intention. You've got to start to go, well, what is it that's really driving me?
Yeah, that's true. Drive and commitment.
Yeah.
There needs to be some relationship because it's a lot of energy to commit to certain things, and if we're not driven in that direction, then we'll be exhausting ourselves.
Yeah.
And that is actually what's happening a lot, is that we might be committed to a job, let's say, and we might spend 50 or 60 hours a week in that job. We've committed to it, but it's not our deep desire or drive in the way it often happens, us being in that job. So in other words, we're losing some of ourselves or a significant part of ourselves to carry out that job.
Yep.
And therefore we get home and we're exhausted because we've been giving a lot, but it's not fulfilling. So it's very useful to evaluate what we're committing to and how much we're giving, and probably what we're not committing to, and what can we give to that we would really like to commit to.
That's the other word at the top. You know, the whole topic today is we're talking about hope, but now joy. Like
joy.
I remember Joseph Campbell. I remember reading him it was a while ago, but you know, the hero's journey you spoke about. But he just used to say, "Follow your bliss." And at that stage of my life, I thought, I have no idea what that is. I really would like to know what my bliss is. Because I sure as hell was trying meditation and all these other things, but at that stage of my life, I had too much stress, and and it takes a while to sort. You know, I think they talk about seed sorting, like what is mine and what's someone else's, or where does this belong? I've got to put that down and change this. So, you know, it's a journey for sure, isn't it? You know, it's an absolute journey to work through what exactly this is. But I think it's worth it. I think it's absolutely. I can't change any of it.
Yeah, joy is a very interesting phenomenon and emotion experience, and it's interesting because we can't force joy, we can't really plan it. There are a lot of things that do take it from us or compete with it, and I would say, like, being in a survival mode, it is hard to really drop into joy.
Yep.
So if we're in that survival mode of like there's a lot of things bothering us because we're in a sort of a hypervigilant state.
Yep.
We're on guard, and so sometimes there is some need to, or often there is a need to sometimes deal with certain things that haven't been dealt with to create greater capacity for joy. In other words, if there's a constant anxiety or compulsion or controlling behaviour, then it's going to be hard to just turn that off.
Yeah, absolutely.
We might need to understand why is that there in the first place.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right.
And once we understand that better, then it's easier to drop into joy. And that, again, comes back to, I guess this is one of the main pillars, is know thyself. Because we might have an anxiety because there's things that we're yearning to discover about ourselves, but we're not fully conscious of
Yeah.
those things yet. And some of them could be painful, so fair enough, we're not fully conscious. We may have blocked out certain things that, in fact, it's likely that, you know, we've all probably, we've all got a subconscious, which are the things that perhaps we either don't need to be looking at all the time, or don't want to be looking at all the time, or don't want to be looking at any time in recent memory. But if we haven't fully, if they relate to things that we haven't fully experienced, that we're needing to experience because they reflect some reality that we've been through, then we may need to honour those things so that they're not pulling at us in various ways, because often they will be, let's say, sabotaging our experience.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. You know, that comes back to really disassociation or avoidance, all these things that can play out for you that you really... And these are the things that are going to hold you back from really understanding your true self, your true nature. But the one thing I'll say when you pick the topic of joy, and I'm really just thinking about it now, the more I loosen up these things that were buried in me and start to shine the light on them, as you say, you don't want to get trapped there. That's part of this seed sorting, knowing when to come out of it. But I feel like what joy is for me, if I really think about it, I have those moments then of spontaneity where it just comes bubbling up through me and life is joyous. And it's that spontaneity that I feel it and I sense it, and then I can go with it. And I know I'm in this sort of cheeky nature, I guess, about myself, and I can be, and you're fun loving, and you can actually be fun to be around as opposed to being serious all the time and carrying a load, right?
I think a lot of it is being childlike and being okay, embracing that. And what I mean by that is it's the wonder that we all had as children, and perhaps not all of us had it as children, but we all deserved it as children.
Yeah.
And then we also all deserve it as adults. And things can get in the way of it. Things may have gotten in the way of it. And being childlike, it is very present. It's being very present. It's being sort of satisfied with what is, and also it's being authentic, because of, I guess, a child who is in a state of joy, or they perhaps haven't had the same conditioning or distraction and conditioning that, and filters that mean they are quite free. They're not trying to control.
The word curious springs. You use that a lot. There's a curiosity around that then, isn't it? Because life...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wonder, curiosity.
Yeah.
Playfulness.
Yeah.
Which is sort of embracing life.
Yeah. So the creative... That's where the creative flow comes from. That's where the ideas and... Yeah. And I think what you do, if we come back to what we were saying earlier, that harmonising factor, if you can harmonise what's inside you and get a handle on what that is, and then that harmonises externally in the world around you, doesn't it? And that word we use, radiating, that's what comes, right?
I think it's trusting self in the world, and then that does attract people who are valuing that.
Yeah.
And therefore, there's an attraction, there's a joy in that connection,
Yeah.
because it's kind of like, I want to be in this place, and this person wants to also see me in this place, and we can be happy. We can both be happy about it, because we're both getting something from it.
Well, there's a generosity of spirit then, isn't there?
Mm.
That comes through. So, yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
Your imagination just can, that creative flow is amazing, you know.
Yeah. So, and I think it's a great time to talk about imagination, because I think part of what we were saying about technology is it's almost giving us too many cues.
Yes.
And whereas what we want is to remember, like, what's it like to sit out on the grass and just look around, and or what's it like to sit with a pen and paper and just write what's interesting, or what's thought provoking, or like use our own language, like find our own language, find our own voice, and also even in other artistic ways, make our own music, make our own sounds, do our own writing, make our own pictures, our own images, our own. So it's sort of like the art of imagination is being hijacked a lot too, because again, we're just feeding ourselves all the time with some external stimuli that we're almost hoping to use to replace our imagination, because we have to sort of risk being bored to get to our imagination. We have to risk being bored, and we also have to risk just the possible discomfort with, like, just being in our own thoughts and not relying on someone else to be feeding our thoughts all the time.
Yeah.
So I think kind of a rekindling of imagination is really important on a regular basis.
Yeah, that word mystery, so that's it, isn't it? It's all ties in together, the unknown, and allowing. Some of the ancient traditions, I used to love the Kabbalah, I read a bit on that, and they said, you know, like, it's so important that's the part, the imagery is a part of the esoteric kind of nature of what that's all about. And some of the old ancient ways, this is what they did. And I hear you talk a lot about the journey, you know, a lot about, you know, that creative space that you, and I watch you do it with your music.
Mm. I think it's good to go off on tangents if it's like a version of ourselves is coming with us. We're not losing ourselves. We're not giving up ourselves for something that's outside of us. We're taking ourselves into another world through a song, or through a book, or through a piece of art. It opens up another world, and it doesn't mean we're losing the real world that we're in. We're just accessing, in some ways, more of the real world, because we have more reflections. And yeah, we're not leaving anything, we're just expanding.
Mm-hmm. You know, they use the word, I suppose, Joseph Campbell, the myth, you know, I always thought of that as some ancient tale way back in time, but what they're saying is what's happened with all the logarithms and things that are being fed us now. We're all losing our own myth about what our true nature of the life I was meant to live. This information's constantly coming in. It's like it's trying to reprogram me. But I've got to figure out what is my story, what is my old myth that I was, my ancestors, you know, none of us know where we've actually come from, but I do believe all of us have an ancestral lineage in us. And so when you talk about imagination, I feel that's when maybe you're going to tap into some ancient part of yourself. And that's what I love in your sound healing you do. And we're doing that because I had that benefit of doing that in the second one I did with you. I felt like I absolutely dropped into a very deep place into this other space and time. But again, you're doing it in a room of collective people that are all doing the same work. And again, we're not in isolation. And I know that's a big driving force for you with part of this work you do as well with this sound healing.
Yeah, I like what you say about ancient times and how maybe we're reconnecting to them through certain practices, experiences.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like a remembering or a revisiting or an integration of or connection to. Like we can see ourselves in different lights, or maybe our soul wants to be seen in different lights because it has different parts to it.
Yeah, I agree.
And some of these practices, we get to experience certain parts of our soul. And that can be very wholesome.
Yeah. Like there's so many things that I've tried to, and I really love what you do, but you know, I've done a lot of dream work. I have someone that's my supervisor that she's, and I bring her my dreams, and it's funny because my dreams have stopped. And she said, that's because you're now manifesting them in your life, you know, because the imaginal part of myself is now bringing it forward. And I was really grateful to hear that because I thought, oh, why have my dreams stopped all of a sudden? But she said, no, you're actually embodying them and you're living them. So it can be done, you know. It's just a matter of us talking about it. And you keep using the word journey, you know, and I really believe part of what we've got to do is tap into this ancient part of ourselves. I've been really fortunate to do other journey work where I get those ancient symbols, and I'm very lucky, I feel, where you do go back and because it opens up the part of your brain that needs to open, you know, the part that's been all shut down with all the things we've talked about. It's real what you do and what you're talking about. It is achievable. And you're quite a leader in this because you do this in such a beautiful, natural way with your music, and it's been exciting watching you do this because I understand all the different work you've done too with the, you know, with the Robert Bly stuff. I was in awe of what he did, and when I found out this is the work you were doing, because not a lot of people are doing it, you know, you're really out there on the cutting edge of getting into, people get scared of doing this. And here you are, you're like a pioneer.
That's very kind. Very generous. I suppose I've had my moments along the way and still learning. And I guess, yeah, I do feel like I've gotten to know myself better through getting off the beaten track, or through reaching out to different ways of being, like, or different practices that I wasn't aware of. So I think there was a point in my life where I was really seeking, and I think someone once said, you know, Chris, we're truth seekers, and I knew what he meant, and I was like, I guess I am, and because it's come through necessity, and I guess all of this it could sound a bit wishy-washy, but I suppose if I get to the crux of it, it's really about, like, we do what we need to do. And for me, I've needed to go to certain places to discover my truth, and some of that's been painful. You know, some of us have had experiences that there's a reason we haven't wanted to go back there or connect to them. But if we don't really honour our own journey and our own truth. And we just try and forget about stuff. We're sort of leaving part of ourselves behind, and so we need to be on the path of wholeness, I believe. And that comes back to Jung. If we want to, I know we both, as you said, have gotten a lot out of his work, so...
Oh, he's amazing.
The wholeness is really become more appealing to me, this idea of being integrated. In other words, like, rather than just sort of running away from things in the past, it's about actually integrating them and finding, peace. And the peace might take time. It might take time. It probably will take time because there's a reason that you're running away in the first place. So it's going to take time to find the peace, and it might require feeling things that you've been reluctant to feel. But the thing is, it's just like joy becomes more available, because I feel like joy's become more available in my life because I've felt some of the uncomfortable things that I didn't know how to feel for some time. And we can't dictate to our feelings, like, I just want to feel this, but I don't want to feel that. Because feelings are like the water, there's a current, there's a flow, and if you start shutting off the water in a certain place, it shuts water off down the line. The flow gets interrupted. So we need to honour our feelings, is to use that word again. Honouring our feelings, allowing ourselves to be in the fullness of them, and therefore we can have access to the light more deeply, the joy more deeply, where we can really drop into it. It won't sort of float away so quickly. If we know what it's like to feel the other things that we've needed to feel.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're talking about believing in self, right? And it's sort of discernment. I think we're talking a lot about being discerning about, what do I need, what do I want, what's really dictating to me. That's been a big part of what we're talking about tonight, isn't it? But I love this saying, and I know the Jung saying is, we walk in shoes that are too small for ourselves, right? And I think it's a matter of understanding that there's another way of doing things. There's more. There is always more.
Yeah, and a lot of it is, again, discovering why we've been avoiding wearing the bigger shoes.
The constriction.
And, there's usually good reasons why we may not have been ready to get into those bigger shoes.
Yeah.
And, again, it takes time to build capacity. It takes courage. It takes experience. So we don't want to get too caught up in, again, the expectation that, like, I should be at this point in my life, or I should be I should have a following of 10,000 people by now, but I've got a following of 10 people or 50 people. So it's not giving up on the goals, but it's also not being not sort of devaluing yourself because you're not at that goal within a certain time period, or and you see, because certain external things can't be controlled. Yeah, so yeah, we need to celebrate. That's probably a word I'd need to talk about, given we're talking about joy and hope. We need to celebrate where we're at, how far we've come. Celebration is also something that in some cultures it doesn't get to radiate as much. So it's important to find the ways that work for us when we celebrate, and not, again, be constrained to what has traditionally worked in a certain culture, that maybe we've grown up in a certain culture, or we've just found ourselves in a certain culture, or whether it's a work culture or a culture at home, or socially, or whatever it is. It may not be our brand of celebration. So, for example, we might think, oh, I've got to wait till it's New Year's Eve to celebrate, or I've got to wait till it's Christmas or my birthday, or I've got to wait till I'm out with friends drinking or something. And it's like, well, maybe they're not my ways of celebrating, or they don't have to be. They could be, but they don't have to be the whole thing. So I think it's about finding our own brand of celebration.
Yeah.
That could be journaling. It could be going for a walk and celebrating being in the sun. It could be just singing, like singing for someone else, or just for yourself. It could be anything, really. But we need to remember to celebrate, because that brings us into the moment, helps us appreciate the moment, appreciate where we are, and also it balances us with the whole, hey, I've got to have 10,000 people that are following me to be happy. It's like, well, actually, there are things you can celebrate now, and there are ways you can celebrate that work for you. They don't have to be the same as how everyone else celebrates.
Yeah. The word that comes when you say celebration for me is gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
If I've got a certain degree of gratitude for what I have got, and I'm not in that expectation you're talking about before of, the shoulds, and I bring it back to gratitude for what I've actually got,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Really nail that down.
Yeah, it's good to make the link between celebration and gratitude. And, having said that, I do hear the word gratitude a lot. And I think it just seems to be like, we hear it a lot because it's important. And I think also celebration perhaps gets misconstrued a little bit.
Yeah.
So
celebration, I think, could be misconstrued with this world, with overindulgence too, wouldn't it? People.
Yeah.
But you're talking about something completely different here, and that's more comes into the joy, right? Celebrating how joyous you can be, and through that comes hope, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I was thinking about joy and hope, and it's sort of like a chicken and egg thing, because it's like when you got some hope, you're going to get a bit happier, and you're going to have more joy. And also when you've got some joy, you go, ooh, I'm snapping out of that bad mood, and now I'm kind of looking forward to, if I can create a bit of joy now, maybe I can create some in the future. So maybe the future's not so bad after all. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing, but they they go well together, therefore, like a chicken and egg.
Well, there is, I suppose, one thing I would say is about the word hope. I remember someone saying people can have false hope.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be a grounded kind of hope, hasn't it? Like, not, that it's sort of something, oh, I hope, something that's ridiculously out there,
Yes.
but a grounded hope.
Exactly.
That you feel like the future is going to be fruitful.
Yep.
So I guess it comes back to what we're saying, gratitude.
It's nothing too pretentious, as you say. It's grounded. It's really your own words. It's not like what sounds good in the book or a book or, oh, look, this sounds good. It's like, yeah, but do you believe it? No.
Oh, dear. Yeah. But I know what that feels like. I mean, the other thing I think the measure for me is, and it's been said by powers greater than myself, is to look at, once you start on this, and you call it the journey, once you start on this, the awakening to personal freedom, I mean, once you start to open these doors, you can't go back. You just can't. And the measure for me was always to look how far I've come. Even if it was a day of doing this, contemplating this, the shift I will get in my mind, it's powerful, right? It's powerful. And once you do it more often, you can't live any other way.
I would say it's powerful if it connects into your heart.
Yeah, true.
Because that's what is believable. Whereas the mind can sort of come up with all sorts of
Tricks.
Possibilities. And,
false hopes.
well, yeah.
Well, there it is right there, right? Yeah.
Potentially. I mean, we might use our mind as a tool to trigger certain things, or whether they're, hopeful, but we need to sort of believe it in our heart to really embody it, to experience it.
That's that other saying, isn't it? From to get out of the mind into the heart, I like that, what you're saying, yeah. Yep. So really just coming back to this harmonising, we started out with talking about that and a bit of an accord about how you want to live your life. So it's really important, isn't it, to pull it in now and go, what is the essence here of what we're really saying? If you're going to wrap this up now, Chris, what would you say? I know these topics were really important to you, and I've enjoyed going through it with you. I think things have come to light from more as we've just got on live and done this. I feel a lot of it has come to me a lot more. But if you're going to wrap this up, what would you say?
Yeah, you mentioned something about being in accord, being in alignment. So I'd say having the courage to trust our own brand of joy, our own brand of hope. Like, for someone it might be dancing, for someone it might be singing, for someone it might be a combination of things. And in fact, it usually is a combination of things. It's actually relaxing the identity that we think we need about, like, oh, I've got to be a plumber, or I've got to be a... that's another word to watch out for. I've got to be, I've...
Could have, would have, should have.
Yeah. So we might have a fairly strong connection to certain roles or identities, but don't be totally suffocated by them or bound by them, because, like, for example, for me, I'm often associated with being a musician, and that's often how I think of myself and others think of me, but doesn't mean that I need to be in that 100% of the time, and I could be missing certain joyous things or certain things that are in alignment with me. And maybe an example of that is doing this podcast. Like, there were times when I was like, oh, is that really what, is that is that a good idea? Like, I'm a musician. Like, why would I be doing a podcast? Am I going to be able to talk about anything, that anyone wants to hear about? So, but I realize I get a lot of joy from speaking about certain things. So, having that realization that I don't have to be a musician all the time.
Yeah.
So, just being open to trying things, experiencing things, that is often where the joy is. It's often in the relaxing of the identity.
Yeah.
And I think that also allows us to do the childlike things, because I don't have to be serious all the time. As you said, I can kick my shoes off and dance around. I can start telling jokes instead of always trying to say the right thing. What if I say the wrong thing? It might be funny. So if I go into those places that other people might be thinking, but they're not willing to say them, that could be funny, because there's a release of energy, and it's like, that's nice. I think just exploring and being open to different things can open up more joy.
Absolutely. No, it's been interesting doing this with you, because you've expanded on exactly what this is now. So it's, I've enjoyed it. I've absolutely enjoyed it. So bring a bit more joy into my life too. So
Very good. Well, it's good of you to join us for this current episode, and we're happy to be back, and we will see you again soon for the next episode. Have a good day.
Bye.
Remember to be joyous and hopeful.